Well, hello and welcome to High Voltage. I am your host. I'm MacKenzie Nelson, and I am here to help you live fully engaged, fully charged, and to bring your yes to the moment. I'm hoping I can equip you with the tools, the tips to encourage you to be ready in that moment where you feel like, hey, this is the moment. And sometimes it's hard to recognize that life-changing opportunity that could really be the thing that propels you into your purpose. So you always want to be ready, waiting, and willing with your yes so that you can meet whatever opportunity, whatever door is opening, whether that be professionally, relationally, or spiritually. So always be ready with your yes. So today, we are going to talk about how to heal trauma and to live fully. How do you heal from trauma and how do we live fully? This is something that is heavily talked about in my book, My Father's Feathers, launched 9/20. So when you see this episode, I think it should already be out, which is so exciting. I'm recording it now and I'm a week away. So I hope you've had a great week. I hope you are feeling geared up and ready to enjoy the weekend and everything that you have planned. Let's just take some time now to focus on this moment and to think about your week. Let's rewind and reflect. What are some moments that you experienced during this week that you felt really uplifted you? Some people that you interacted with where you really just felt fed. You felt like they lightened your soul. You felt encouraged. You felt ready to face the present with your yes. And now maybe rewind and reflect. You have that notepad and that pen, and think about some areas, some people maybe you connected with, some places you visited that you felt really didn't align with that intentional living of being fully charged and engaged. You kind of felt like you were, I don't know, not quite attentive or plugged in, and it just maybe wasn't your scene, maybe they weren't your people. Note that down and just kind of keep track of this as we go along. Our topic this week: how to heal trauma and live fully. Well, for me, I really started a few years ago on this path of healing and transformation. The first step for me was to face my trauma. And I think that is the hardest step, right? To intentionally go head to head with trauma. And what kind of trauma? Well, I believe, like Jesus says, in this life, you will have suffering. The difference, I believe, in our suffering and how we come out of that there are those that suffer well, right? And I believe the ones that suffer well are the ones that are facing their trauma. And if you do believe in a higher power, I do, I give that to God. And the way I went about this was 3 pages a day. I have a journal coming out, 3 pages a day, guys, 3 pages to transform your life. And that will be launching here shortly as well. So watch for updates about that journal. I wrote my book this way, 3 pages a day. The journal will be lined 3 pages at a time. So it's all you need for one whole month if you want to sit and go on your own healing journey, your own journey of transformation. I just think it's so essential that we take some time for ourselves and that we're processing things, and that I do sincerely believe that everyone should go on a healing journey. And in doing so, I'm providing a resource for you where you can start. It's only 3 pages. It's a minimal time commitment, but it is an investment you will see return to you in droves. Like you will not believe what you will get in 1 month of 3 pages a day. It will shock you into the present moment of how you're really living your life. Now, I didn't know what I was going to write each day. The words just came to me as I asked the Lord to honor the process that I was committed to. I said yes. I said yes. And saying yes, you guys, is so much more important than it is knowing how to do the process. All I did was say yes. And now I have a book launching, I have a podcast. All of this just keeps growing. I've been aligned with people because I said yes, who are standing with me, who are holding space for me. I have a tribe, guys, like a tribe of people who are looking and they have sincere hearts. They want to help to encourage other people. So I am living proof that my trauma can be turned into triumph, guys. And I know trauma is not something, that we take lightly. Trauma can range for me. I had sexual, emotional, and some light physical abuse in my past, and I didn't even remember the sexual abuse until I watched a show called Rewind, which was about a young man rewinding his life. His dad had filmed him and taken a lot of tapes, and he was just kind of watching himself through the lens of all these tapes his dad had taken. And it turns out he suffered sexual abuse. And it was through him speaking and sharing about his trauma that did something that unlocked my trauma. And it was during this documentary, it was like, a zip drive was unleashed in my mind. And I remembered everything. I was face to face with my own sexual abuse for the very first time. I decided to team with a therapist, which I highly recommend therapy. If you are remembering some suppressed memories or dealing with something along those lines, therapy helped me so much, and it gave me so many great tools to use in coordination with my 3 pages a day. Some extra things to think about that I wasn't considering. I really, really highly recommend therapy, guys. Also, through my suffering, through processing my trauma, revelation was unleashed. I was learning more and more about who I was, because once I processed the trauma, once I could forgive those who hurt me, which is so important. That's another step. Write your 3 pages, hook up with a therapist, forgive those who have harmed you, not for them, for you. Forgiveness frees you. And if you have more questions about forgiveness, I did an episode a couple back that you might want to pull now for reference if you're curious, or always reach out to me, guys. MacKenzieKNelson.com. I have a free 30-minute session. I would love to connect with you. But really what happened through me processing these 3 pages a day, I was transforming. I was discovering who I was beneath all of these hazy years of trauma, abuse. The layers were lifting. And as I spoke to God, as I connected with him every day before my 3 pages, and as I wrote them and he gave me the words and he showed up every time, just like he does for this podcast. I have an idea of what I'm going to speak about, but I pray, I ask him for words, and the Holy Spirit always shows up and gives me exactly the words that I need at exactly that time. And so he just, he's honoring the yes that I have spoken to him to take up this assignment he has given me, which is writing this book. And now it's sharing my experiences via this podcast with you. And you just never know how God's going to take that trauma that you experienced and turn it into your triumph, guys. And find out who you really, really are, and your purpose, your destiny, all of it starts coming more into focus. The haze of the trauma, the disdain, the bitterness, anything you were walking in prior to processing this is lifted. Sometimes that might look like, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. And there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I made a lot of progress in falling down or having the harder days, right? Because processing trauma is something that's very personal. It's very deep, and it's such a journey. that is so hard for me, even though I'm a writer and on this podcast, to really verbalize, um, even at this point, but I'm trying to. Um, I really believe that when we trust God, right, it's not in our own power that we're facing this trauma. We aren't alone in our trauma. We're never alone. He is always with us, even on the hardest days when it feels like he must be a million miles away. I've had those days too, but be assured he is near and dear to your heart, and he loves you and he wants to heal you and help you. And so when you pray, when you ask God to intercede, to intervene, and to heal your heart, supernaturally, He does as you continue to stay in that refining place, a place of purification, if you will, is what I have walked out and am still walking out. I believe it's something that we are always being refined, right? Glory to glory. So we're never at a place where, we're finished. We're done. We've discovered everything that we need to know. So check. We're all done now. No, we're never done. There is always something going on that we can give to God, that He can work in our lives. And I rest in the moment, knowing that that's where He's meeting me. And it is a fluid exchange between Him and I. We are one, I and Him and me. And it is through that faith that I have really forged this place where I can stand on Him no matter what. I might be, tossed to and fro, but I'm tethered, I'm supported. I have my foundation no matter what comes. I might be thrown off, I might be knocked down, a hard memory, another interaction with someone who I feel has caused me so much trauma. It hurts. And I take that hurt every single time I go back to God. I pray for healing. And He does. He takes me under His wing. He hides me away. He protects me from the world. He is that safe place where I have found under His feathers love, acceptance, protection. I'm known, I'm worthy. And when you know you are worthy, when you understand how valuable you are and the gifts that you possess inside of you that the world needs you to uncover, and that purpose and that destiny, you are unstoppable. So if you do have some trauma, some undealt with areas, it is well worth it to invest the time and go on your own healing journey and discover your purpose. And maybe you too will find that, like me, you didn't really know yourself before you started journaling. I really think that now I am living fully because I am healed from all of that trauma, from my childhood, from my past. So when you recognize your worth and it isn't dependent on circumstances or money, possessions, when you know your worth, it's so much easier to recognize trauma and then to process from it. So that is also the part of this that's imperative, is recognizing the trauma. A lot of times, abuse, growing up in families, you have good memories mixed in with the abuse. So it can be harder to really pin down, what you've actually been through because you're so entrenched in it. It's been normalized to a certain extent. So when you recognize the trauma, really understanding your value and who you are and that you are worthy really helps to unlock and spot the places where you have not been treated in accordance with a worthy narrative. That's the other part of this. In order to process the trauma, you first have to recognize it, right? And for me, that was God. God revealed so much for me, so much of my own circumstances. I'm too enmeshed in them. I've been around them for too long. They're normalized to me. So it took Him, the Holy Spirit, moving through me and showing me these things as I was writing 3 pages a day to uncover a lot of the trauma, a lot of the memories. I write in my book like they were like these tiny little submarines that just kept emerging from the water, carrying one memory or 2 memories, or just understanding these memories that I didn't have access to and remembering them, my story just now made so much more sense, and things that were once confusing were now illuminated. And I was basically piecing my story together 3 pages a day as I wrote my book. So, no, you are not alone. Whatever you are going through, whatever you are processing, I just challenge you, if you do have some trauma that you have been actively avoiding in your life from facing, I encourage you to face it. That fire, right? That fire raging in front of you. What I discovered was when I faced the fire of my trauma, thanks to God, thanks to Jesus, I met him in it. And he used that same fire to refine me, to purify me, to show me areas in my life where I was not aligned in that whole worthy perspective. And he burned all of that away from me. And when I walked out of the fire, I was a new creation. I fully charged. I was fully charged and I'm fully engaged and I'm ready to face the moment with my yes, because I know who I am. I'm worthy, loved, and I'm the daughter of a king. I am royalty. And just living my life through that lens, from that perspective, has aligned me with such caring people. Healing is available on the other side of trauma and suffering. Turn your trauma into your triumph. Grab my journal, and I want to hear about it. If you do go on your own journey, please message me. I would love to hear. All right, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks again, guys.